I'm waiting. Oh,
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by Craft Beer Nation. Today is September 24th, 2015, and we have Jeppe Jarnit-Bjergsø,
not
owner
even
of...
close. Not even close.
Okay, well, you know who Jeppe is.
I know.
I'm going to take a crack at it. Jeppe Jarnit-Bjergsø.
A little bit closer, but not that close.
Okay, well, we have the owner of Evil Twin Brewing joining us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Evil Twin, a little bit about Jeppe's history, and where they are, where they're going. So pour that beer in the glass and get comfortable. And while the theme music plays, that would be the perfect time for you to subscribe to our Pints and Quarts podcast via any of your podcast forms, whether it be iTunes or Stitcher, Pocket Caster, any of those things. Also, find us on Facebook at the Craft Beer Nation, Twitter at CBN Community. We're on Instagram at craftbeer_nation, and of course, you can find us on Google+.
All right.
All right, so everybody, welcome to Pints and Quarts. We have a very special guest tonight. Jeppe, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thank you.
I think this is our first time ever having a contract brewer on with us, so we are extremely excited to have you on. So let's just get right into it. And can you tell us a little bit about your history and how you got into craft beer?
I definitely can, but
And how you pronounce your name.
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah.
I actually did a beer dinner a couple of months ago, and I started out by saying if anyone can pronounce my name right, I'll give them free beer for the whole night. So people, they tried all night.
I was gonna say I would have tried all night.
No, right. So that's kind of, Jeppe Jarnit-Bjergsø.
Oh no, I can't.
Okay, I'm
I know to you guys it's probably just a bunch of weird noises coming out of my mouth.
I think I heard an S in there somewhere.
All right, Gesundheit.
No, there's an S in there. No, it's not easy. It's actually, even in Denmark, it's kind of a weird name. Jeppe is not. Jeppe is a common name in Denmark, but our last name is really strange even in Denmark. I mean, we're only 4 people in the world with that name, so it's kind of unique.
Oh wow, kind of unique. I'd say that's
Did your
highly
parents just
unique.
make it up? How did that happen?
Oh,
I mean, my wife's name was Jarnit, and my name was Bjergsø, and we combined it. So, it's me and my wife and our 2 kids, and that's it.
Okay,
Perfect.
I see. All right.
So
Anyway, that was the name. The story. I mean, I can tell a lot about, my story. How far back can I go?
how far back you want to go?
I mean, it started out back in Denmark about 20 years ago when I was growing up and starting to drink bad beer and getting drunk with my friends. And in Denmark, we have a big brewery called Carlsberg that pretty much ran the whole show in Denmark. And everything we bought was Carlsberg owned or Carlsberg imported. And it was kind of boring. And I just found myself drinking the same thing all the time and just being bored with it. So I was like, maybe we should try and see if we can find something else. So I formed a small beer club back in '98, I think. Invited 15 friends. We met every second month, and we all had to bring a beer each, and we blind tasted them, and just got nerdy about it, and from there we started homebrewing and to see if we can make beers as good as the one we bought, and that's kind of how the whole thing started. So close to 20 years ago.
Okay. So clearly, I mean, you've been into craft beer for this long. Your passion for beer is undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of guy when I get into something, I don't do it, I don't do it half, I don't even do it 100%. I like to say I do it 105%. I'm very intense about what I do. Also the stuff I did before craft beer. I used to be a track runner, and I was one of the fastest in Europe. It's just about being determined in what I do. And when I got into craft beer, I went all the way, and I want to be the best at what I do. So when I started brewing, I was like, hey, maybe I should see if I could make something out of it.
So are you at the point now where there's absolutely no doubt that this is what you're supposed to be doing with your life?
I don't know. I mean, right now it is. I mean, you could ask me again in 10 years, maybe I'm doing something different. I've done a lot of different things in my life, and craft beer has been going on for a while now, so I think I'm going to stick around for a little bit. But you know, I like to take you know, to grab the chances I get and run with it and see how far I can take it. And right now it's craft beer, and I'm happy with what I do. I'm big time into cocktails also. I'm into cooking, so you know, maybe I'll be a chef in 10 years or a cocktail guy at some bar somewhere.
You sound like a coffee snob. I would think that you're into the coffee.
I'm into coffee too, big time. I mean, I have a crazy espresso machine, and I get beans shipped over from Denmark, and you know, I'm into things that taste good.
Now, what you do, I mean, you're not the only person who do what you do, but it's still very unique. There's not many breweries or brewers that do what you do. How, you know, what drove you to do that rather than go the normal route and just open a brewery?
I mean, it's pretty simple actually. When I started homebrewing a long time ago, and I had a beer shop in Denmark called Ølbutikken, which means the beer shop, which was a very famous beer shop back in the days. And I have an import company in Denmark, so we import beers into Denmark, American craft beer, and distribute all over Europe. And at the same time, I was a full-time school teacher. So having, you know, a full-time job, having an import company, having a shop, wanting to do brewing, I just didn't have time to go out and open a brewery, and I had a lot of connections in the beer world, so it was just an obvious thing for me to go out and, you know, talk to my friends that had breweries in Denmark and say, hey, can I make a beer? And you know, I know how to sell it at least. I have a shop and I have a distribution company, so maybe I could brew it too. So it's kind of how I got started. It wasn't a plan or anything. It was just something that happened.
Now, a lot of your beer is brewed down in South Carolina, right, at Westbrook?
Yeah.
I'm actually from Beaufort, which is like an hour south of Charleston, so
yeah.
I feel a little kindred spirit between the two of us, man.
I mean, a lot of things about my company is kind of a coincidence. You know, again, I've never written a business plan or anything. I just wrote with it, and I went to Charleston, South Carolina back in 2011 when Evil Twin was like just born and very young and very new, and I met Ed Westbrook, who just opened a brewery, I don't know, 4 months earlier. And I saw this big brewery, and I was like, hey, maybe one day we can make a beer together, and that's kind of how it happened. And now we do a lot of stuff together, and it's, you know, it works out well, and we've become very good friends too. So it's awesome.
Yeah, they have a beautiful facility down there. For those who've never been to Westbrook down in Charleston, it's definitely worth a trip. And I mean they brew good beer, period. But their brewery is a beautiful looking place.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah. So is Evil Twin, is it 100% you, or do you have like an assistant brewer who travels with you and comes up?
It's just me. I mean, it's kind of weird because I get asked the question because we've grown to be a pretty big company now, in terms of sales and recognitions and all that. But you know, it's just me and my wife actually. I do all the recipes and I travel all the world and make the beers, and my wife do all the copywriting and all the press things and all that. And you know, we have a lot of people working under us that we don't hire. Fortunately, you know, we don't have to hire the people because someone else does. So we have a lot of salespeople and all that, but they're, you know, hired by our distributor. But yeah, Evil Twin is just a two-man show for now, and it works really well. I mean, we do a lot for two people for sure.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with the amount of labels you carry. I mean, you have so many styles. So many,
I have a lot of ideas, and I'm still, you know, we're 5 years old now, and I'm still in the phase where if I get an idea, I want to make it. I mean, so far I don't want to call it a hobby. It would sound weird to call it a hobby being as big as we are now, but I kind of see it like that. You know, it's just I have a lot of ideas, and I know a lot of people, and I meet a lot of chefs, and it's just fun to just bring out all these ideas to life.
Now, can you speak a little bit about I think you did a collaboration beer with a brewery in Lancaster, South Carolina. I can't remember what his name was, what the name of the brewery was. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Benford Brewing.
Yeah. How did that come about?
It's a fun story actually. It's actually a long story. I don't know how long time we have, but it, to make it short, I got so we had a collaboration going on with a company in Denmark, not a brewery but like an advertising company, and they ended up totally screwing us over and taking our name and taking our idea. And I found out that this brewery in Benford, South Carolina, had done a beer with almost the same name that got stolen from us. So I contacted them and asked, maybe we should do this together and make fun of these idiots in Denmark. And he was up for it, and we made the problem solver, which is the name of the beer, and it just worked out. It was again talking about coincidences. It was kind of a coincidence. I mean, this happened, and I found out about this guy, and all of a sudden I found myself in Lancaster, South Carolina, brewing a beer with a guy I've never heard about before. But it was a good experience.
I think Benford is a pretty small brewery. When you approached them and said that, I bet there was not 1 second of hesitation.
They probably went, "Oh my, I'm getting the vapors." They went, "Oh my."
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny you ask because I get asked that question a lot. How do people, because I do brew with a lot of small brewers, and I travel all over the world. I do this column for Vice magazine where I go to like Iceland and Taiwan and Brazil and Mexico and brew with these very small brewers. And I kind of realized that it might be a big deal for those guys that Evil Twin is coming to Taiwan to make a beer, but for me it's still just what I do, and I don't see myself as anything more than what I am. I'm just a person, and for me it's just fun to go out there and experience these worlds that are so different from the world that I live in. I have a lot of people look at me and say I have kind of a fancy world. I live in a fancy world where work with the best restaurants in the world and all that. I work with the best brewers in the world, but it's just fun for me to go to Benford in Lancaster, South Carolina, and make a beer with some unknown guy down there because I can give him something and he can definitely give me something back. So
yeah. Freddie, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, I just want to ask him. So, can you tell us a little bit about? So, like, I love, like Randy mentioned earlier, like the barrel aged beers. You guys make some big beers, even more double barrel Jesus, etc. And the Cafe Jesus, I think you guys, well, at least over here, we just got maybe the recent release of it. Maybe can you speak up on a little bit of that, how it came about, and your ideas in the barrel aging process?
I mean, we make a lot of different beers, and again, every beer that we make is something that I just, come to my mind, and I want to make it. If there's a beer I want to taste that's not on the market, I just make it myself. But about the stouts, we kind of become famous for our stouts. I mean, I don't know why, but people must like them.
Yeah, they're amazing. That's why.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're good.
Maybe. But even though Jesus was a beer that we made, actually one of the first beers that we ever made on a commercial base, and I remember making the recipe back in the days, back in Denmark, and we brewed it in Denmark the first time. And I remember making the recipes and thinking when I made the recipe, this is going to be a very good beer. I just had a feeling about it, and when we brewed it the first time and we tasted it, the finished product, it was just pretty much the most perfect stout I ever had. I mean, I know it's weird to say that about your own beer, but I felt like it. The recipe is just so perfect. So when you have something that works so well, it was just an obvious thing to kind of play around with it. That's why we did the Spanish versions that we only do in Spain, the Olmasa Jesus and the Olmasa Chile Jesus and barrel. It's just a perfect start for barrel aging because it's so complex and there's so much going on, and it will just fit barrels extremely well. So it's fun.
It's what you seems to have. I know you have a lot of heavy big beers, but you have a finesse with light beers. You had a Goza, I remember, and you do lagers.
Bikini beer too.
Yeah, the bikini beer, the Nomad, and so it seems that you don't get attached to, as I said before, to its style. Is that something that just because you try to have a big spectrum, or you just enjoy about everything?
I mean, I don't try anything. It's more about that I enjoy everything, and when I made Bikini Beer, for example, which is 2.7% IPA, the story is actually I was working late hours every night, and when I work, I like to drink beer like everybody else, and I got so tired from drinking these high alcohol beers. And I was like, hey, why don't I have an IPA? You couldn't get any IPAs in Denmark at the time with low alcohol. So I was like, why don't I make an IPA with low alcohol that actually tastes good and tastes of something, and then you can drink a couple and without being tired. That's kind of that's how Bikini Beer came along, and it's just, again, I just get these ideas from my surroundings and from what I'm in on a certain day, and it just makes sense.
You get big influence when you do collabs. Do you try to mirror that, or
I mean, yeah, my approach to collaboration, I've done quite a few, but I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of collaboration, but I also think it's being overdone a little bit because nowadays everybody makes collaborations with everybody. And I think if you make a collaboration with another brewery, you have to do something that represents those breweries' ideas. And I often see beers from two breweries, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense because it doesn't represent either of them, or maybe it just represents one of them. So when I make a collaboration, I want to do something that represents me, and I want to do something that represents them. And sometimes, it's kind of a challenge because if you work with a brewery, like I did a beer with Jester King last year, the world's worst twin, and their brewing or their style is very different from what I do. So we had to kind of incorporate those ideas, but I think it worked out really well. I mean, it's fun to do these things and find out how we can, again, represent both breweries' ideas.
So it's safe to say that your identity as a brewer is, I mean, you said that you're known for your stouts, but I mean, you just brew whatever you kind of get a feel for at that time, right? I mean, whatever you just the joy of being a contract brewer is that you get to brew whatever the hell it is that you want to brew, and that seems to be what you do.
Definitely. I mean,
yeah.
I don't have, again, it's an old cliche, but I don't have a $5 million, $10 million loan I have to pay back. So I don't have to do a wheat beer or a pale ale or a pilsner that can make money to pay that loan back. So for me to be able to just make the beer that I want to make, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I just don't do it again. I mean, it's just, we only print the labels that we need for one batch, and if it works, we just print more labels. If it doesn't work, we just don't print more labels. It's pretty simple, and it gives a big freedom in terms of, again, I can experiment a lot, and some people think it's how can you do all these different beers? How can you do 25 different beers in a year? I mean, of course I can. We make one batch and we sell it, and if people don't like it, I just don't do it again.
I love it.
Are there any kinds that you want to try that you haven't tried yet?
Like styles of beer? Not really. I mean, I've pretty much done it all. Yeah, I'm always open to trying new stuff, and it's always fun to Berliner Weisses and Goses and all that are very hot right now. But it's also it's a style that, being from Europe, that I've known from 10, 15 years ago. I used to go to Berlin 10, 15 years ago and search out Berliner Weisses. Nobody cared about Berliner Weisses back then, and they weren't that good actually because they were all blended with these sweet zeros. But to go back to where it all started and redo those styles, the one we just did with olive and strawberry, which I don't think has ever been done before. It's just that's kind of where I am right now. It's fun to take these styles and play with them and see what we can bring out of them.
So you're talking about labels? Oh, go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead, you good.
No, I just want to know, like, the naming process. Like, I get a kick out sometimes. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, you got Biscotti Break, Imperial Coffee Break, Jesus, Bikini Sour. Is that something that you think about after? You're like, you know what, this fits perfect, or?
I mean, actually, I don't. Most of the names I don't come up with. It's actually my wife who is a part of the company also, and she used to be a copywriter, and she's very creative in writing, and
that's awesome.
She just has a very creative mind. So the normal process is that I tell her what style of beer it is and what flavor profile it is, and she comes up with a name that, Bikini beer, for example, was obvious. It's a low alcohol beer, and you want to drink it on the beach. So why not call it Bikini beer? it's we we try not to take ourselves too seriously, and it's not about being silly just to be silly, but we always had this philosophy that if you see a name on a beer that you don't might not understand or it sounds weird, you remember it better. If it's just called brown ale, people forget it. But if it's called bikini beer, it's something that people will definitely remember. So
Now, being from Europe, you probably have a very unique vision of the craft beer in US, right? Because you didn't grow up here, as I did. I didn't either. So you have experience in old world Germany. You just said you go to Germany. You have a brewery in Spain. Uh, so how does translate for you as in being in US and having is that a big influence? You see US as a kind of on the forefront of beer, or just one more country doing good beers?
the USA, no, it's definitely not just one more country. It's definitely the forefront. I mean, when I got into craft beer 20 years ago, we couldn't get any American craft beer in Europe, and getting a good IPA, or what we know now as a good IPA, just didn't exist in Europe at the time, or a good imperial stout. So when I got into craft beer, it was all about Belgian ales, and I went to Belgium all the time and bought the dark Belgian ales and the triples, and lambics and all that. So when I discovered the USA, and the beers that were made in the USA, it was just a big eye opener, whatever you call it. There's no doubt. I mean, we sell beer all over the world, and I know the beer scene all over the world probably better than anyone else because I do all these travels, and I am a part of a lot of beer scenes all over the world. And there's no doubt about that. The USA is definitely on the forefront. I mean, everybody's inspired by the USA right now, and it's good. I mean, even the best. I mean, it sounds weird, but even the best Belgian style ales almost are made in the USA right now. It's kind of crazy.
So, like, we can challenge you a little bit.
You can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A session.
Yeah.
I didn't have an Evil Twin class.
It didn't have any Evil Twin beer on hand.
I'm in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York, so don't blame me.
Is that Crooked Stave that you have there?
Yep.
It is, and Chad from Crooked Stave is a very good friend of mine, and maybe we became friends actually because I started loving his beers and I wanted to be friends with him. But we're very good friends, and I just support him as much as we can because to me he's definitely one of the leading guys in the American beer industry right now.
They make the best sours in US right now.
Yeah, I love everything he does. He can't do anything wrong, pretty much.
So here's the challenge: a session barley wine.
Yeah, I think it can be done. I mean, I did a collaboration with Beavertown from London earlier this year, and we did an Imperial Mild. Did you get that?
Yeah.
We took an old mild recipe, old historic mild recipe, and make it Imperial. And if you can do that, you can definitely do a session barley wine.
I say go for it.
Well, if it's a long session, it depends on how long the session is. 8 hours,
exactly.
Right.
I cannot even comprehend how you would get a session barley wine, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, do you track your barrelage on your barrel production on an annual basis, or do you the fact that you're a contract brewer, you don't have to worry about those types of things?
I totally do. I'm a statistics guy, so I know exactly how much we make and how much we make per month and everything. And now you're gonna ask me how much we're making.
Yep.
I mean, this year we're gonna make about 20 to 23,000 barrels or something like that. Which means we're still small, but we're only 4.5 years old, so it's definitely big enough for. I mean, I had never imagined being at 20,000 barrels after a couple of years or after 4 years. And we could probably do more. I mean, the demand is definitely there, but I'm not in a hurry. I mean, I take my time and I want to make it right. Again, I don't have a certain style of beer which you can just pump out and sell everywhere. It's more important for me to just get the right stuff out there and get people what they like and what I like.
Well, I gotta tell you, man, for a brewery that's only doing 20,000 barrels a year, you guys you are much bigger than your barrelage. I'll say that.
I think I kind of feel that sometimes, and it's just today I read an article where it was about me, Garrett Oliver, Sam from Dogfish Head, and in Nevada, and I was like, how am I put in the same category as those guys? They're all like between 10 and 100 times bigger than us, but I think we made an impact, and I guess that's from the beer we make, and not just from how much we make. So I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely, it is.
Somebody to make a biscotti break, you have to be a genius. You should be the genius twins.
I'll take the genius part. I'll take that.
All right, yeah, but I want to transition real quick to a couple articles that we found earlier this week. Gil, you found something about speaking of canned beer. I'm drinking the Molotov Light right now, which is your light version of the Molotov, right?
Yeah.
Imperial IPA in a can. So, Gil, what did you find about canned beer this week?
It's not so much about canned beer, but I was we're reading this article, and this guy is describing, he's sitting in the bar and seeing this person pouring a crowler, and we've been talking about cans for quite a while now, many times, and so what was interesting is sometimes, we know can is growing a lot, and he brings some statistic there, showing cans to be from 2% of the beer, we're being canning 3-4 years ago to about 10% plus right now, and I think the point that we were trying to make is like, how are we going to see cans from now on, right? And with the growlers, it seems that this is going to be a big deal. And I actually want to ask Jeppe, how you see, because you have some cans. How many beer do you can now?
How many do we can? We do sour bikini beer, hipster ale, Molotov, Citra Sunshine, Slagger. We just put Falco and Lowlife into cans. But we're definitely going to move more beers to cans. We just had a meeting about it the other day. It's the right thing to do. It's better for the environment. It's easier to carry. It's cheaper to make. Everything about it just makes sense. I definitely want to be the first guy to put a 14% Imperial Stout into cans. I think the only Imperial Stout is 1050 right now.
Yeah.
You can get in cans. So we talked about that the other day. We should put a big ass stout into cans.
I like it.
It's a tiny keg, so why not?
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think that a lot of people are concerned about linings and stuff on the can, and I think this new generation, this new group of people drinking craft beer, are more aware of the cans, and part what the article wants to talk about is the demographics and stuff like this, and I think that's what's happening right now in craft brewing, is that a new group of people knowing what can is about, knowing that it's not just a vessel that will maybe cause whatever that people think that cans would cause, but seeing the good side of it, that cans are pretty safe. It's a mini keg, like Randy did say just now, and airtight. So I think it's wonderful. I was just wondering what you all think about it, because to me, I can see going. I don't see bottles going away ever. Maybe in the very far future, but I think can came to stay, and I think the growlers are a big part of it.
I tell you, man, when I first got into craft beer, I kind of shied away from cans because at that point in my beer drinking journey, cans had been associated with crappy beer, and I would come across like Dale's Pale Ale, and I'd be like, psh, ain't nobody drinking that. And
That's
then
like Pabst Blue Ribbon or something. That's what I thought.
And then as I got a little more hip, I was like, wait a minute. The quality of the beer has nothing to do with the vessel. Well, it can, but you know what I'm saying? So
we were
now
brainwashed.
I'm like, if I see a can, I'm almost inclined to grab it more than I would a bottle, right? Because I know that in a can, that beer stands a better chance of being fresher or less infected because it has no exposure to light. There's no exposure to oxygen. So I love cans right now, man.
I can tell you again that the USA is definitely on the forefront on that too, because Europe is not as they don't love cans as much as we do over here. And the rest of the world is also definitely lagging behind. We actually still do some beers in cans in the USA, but we still do them in bottles for export, just because people don't want to buy cans, outside of the USA. It's weird, but it's going to change. But it's definitely happening here first.
Yeah.
I think it's going to grow also as new breweries or breweries expand, because there's a lot of money invested on bottle, lines and stuff like that. So it's not like you can just shovel aside your bottle line and just get a new, canning line. And I think to me, the big thing is that mobile canning system helped a lot of small brewing.
Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
I think that really draw brewers to think. But what the reason I decided to talk about this article is that I'm very aware of beer being canned, right? But all of a sudden you see ciders and even wine being put in can.
Tons of
See, I
ciders.
was way ahead of the time because I drank wine out of boxes. I was a visionary. I had my Franzia in 1990, and
You keep it classy, Lola.
That's
I
right.
was the Gene Roddenberry of wine drinkers.
I'm a minimalistic design guy. I like more minimal labels and stuff like this. But people are going crazy when it comes to labels and stuff this on cans as well.
And speaking of labels, and
speaking of labels, I'm
Lola,
still not good at transitions. The sad thing is, all right, I read an article on one of my favorite breweries, Cigar City. They're 4 hours away from me, but I consider them neighbors because they're great, and I want to claim ownership to them in some small way. So I act like I know them. But anyways, there was an article on what website was this?
TampaBay.com.
TampaBay.com, about the person who designs their bottles. His name is Geiger, like the Geiger counter, Hal, and he's only 30 years old. He's only been working for them for about 4 years.
I read the article, actually.
Say that again?
I read the article.
You did?
Yeah, for some reason I fell over the article. So.
Okay. Yeah, and he is actually the director of marketing, but he said they wear a lot of hats, so he has a lot of different jobs, but one of his is doing the labels. He says he's a self-taught artist. He's been photoshopping since he was 12. Well, I have Photoshop, so I need to get on it because I want to do something like that. But when he's talking about cans, he says with a can you can use 6 colors max because of the process of putting the design on metal. A paper label allows for more color and nuance. So there are a lot of different constraints depending on what medium you're using. And the sad thing is about me, I have so much beer I don't know what I have because I was lamenting that I didn't have any Cigar City to show you. And then I just happened to look down. You may have heard a bag rustling and me looking down. I realized I had a 6-pack of Cigar City at my feet.
First world problem.
Yeah.
First world problem.
Yeah. Founders has I don't want to call competition because it's not really a competition, but they have a thing that they do a label art, and this year they have the Spectra Trifecta. This beautiful label, and I think it's part of the beer. I don't think it influences the taste of the beer, but when it comes to boxes and labels and vessels, I think it's part of the packaging.
Yeah, and if you want to blue box me, this is their Tokabaga, their red ale. So.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty nice. This is a good beer. I've never had this out of the can, actually. I've only had this on tap, so this is going to be different. It's just sad that I had no idea this was here. It's been there for about 2 weeks. So.
Well, you better get to drinking, Lola.
I guess, heck, I'm almost out of what I'm drinking now. I may start now.
So, and the last article we found was obviously about the acquisition of Golden Road Brewing this week by Anheuser-Busch. And Ashley, one of our moderators, Ashley Bauer, she called it earlier this year that she said she felt like there were going to be a lot of acquisitions going on, and here we are, like in the last 3 weeks, there have been three of them. I mean, you've had the Lagunitas Heineken deal, you've had the St. Archer deal with SAB Miller, and you had now this AB acquisition deal with Golden Road Brewing. And I mean, it depends on how you look at this. One could say that this is good for craft beer because it's bringing more recognition to it, but at the same time, I think it's kind of, it's bad for craft beer because I mean we're losing people out of our fold, and we're having to compete with the likes of AB InBev and people who have really long money, right? So
Yeah, has, yeah, not a really great company who has access to taps and can push other people aside.
Right. So the more craft beers they get into their fold, they're gonna want another tap to put that pseudo craft beer on tap. So that means that there's a chance that they could pay a restaurant or a distributor or whatever to force one more craft brewer out of the market and give them that much more shelf space or tap space. And I think it's been well documented how I feel. Well, we've documented it here how I feel about AB InBev. I mean, it's not about the beer that they make, but it's about who they are as a company and their business practices and stuff like that. And the fact that we're doing this right here goes without being said that we're all passionate about craft beer. And I mean, I personally, I think that it stinks a little when we see, people kind of succumbing to, to the likes of people like AB InBev and SAB Coors or Miller or whoever the heck they are.
Which
So
is gonna be one.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm really anxious to hear what your thoughts are about, recent acquisitions as it relates to craft beer, and where do you think what do you think this means for the future of craft beer?
Huh. That's it's I. There's a lot of opinions about that, and I don't know. I mean, first of all, what was the last one that just got bought? Golden Road?
Yeah, Golden Road.
I've never heard about it before.
Oh, really?
I mean, I
They're
don't.
the biggest one out of LA.
Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
I didn't know that there was any brewers in LA. No, I'm just kidding. But it's. I mean, it's first of all, it's a natural thing that we have a business that's growing so fast, and it's getting so much attention, and there's a lot of people in it, and there's a lot of money in it too, and people are gonna sell, and I kind of I don't know Golden Road. I don't know how old it is. I don't understand if you're a young brewery like Saint Archer that just sold the other day. That's
Yep.
to me that was kind of odd because they're only 2 years old, and why would they want to sell out after 2 years? I mean, but for like Nidas, for example, to sell to Heineken, I think it's a normal thing when you've been working your ass off for 20 years and you build something that's that big and you're getting older and you just see an opportunity to have a better life pretty much because of all the money you can get. I mean, in some ways, I totally agree that it's sad to see all these awesome breweries selling out because we're gonna lose them. But on the other hand, we still have 3,500 plus brewers, and losing a couple of brewers a month is not gonna make a big difference. And I don't want to, I don't want to blame the people doing it because, again, they've been working for many years, and if they can create a better life for themselves by stepping back and each to their own. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, sorry, Bree. I think we say this all the time. We're not against big brewers. We're not. I don't think any of us here is attached to Brewers Association guidelines of what's a craft beer is, and I have no problem being big or like I still love founders. They have a good share of them owned by a financial company or an investment
yeah,
company.
San Miguel.
Yeah, so I don't have problem with that, but my problem is companies that do predatory, uh, actions like AB InBev, and that's what's sad. Because as you said, there's no problem. There's so many breweries. I mean, you get overwhelmed when you go to your bottle shop, and and you as a consumer are going to choose buy or not buy. I just There are certain companies that don't want my money to go in, and if somebody wants to sell them, that's I don't have any against the people who sold, but I'm just not going to buy that particular beer anymore.
Oh,
Not
I
AB
totally
InBev.
I totally agree with that, and I'd never go to McDonald's, for example, because I don't want to support McDonald's. I think it's a shitty company, and I might not buy Lagunitas again because I don't want to support Heineken. I don't know, but I'm more thinking about it from Lagunitas perspective, and I kind of understand why you would do it when you have been working hard for 20 years and you build this up. So it's yeah, I understand why. I had a Goose Island. I have to be careful what I say now, but I had a Goose Island IPA the other day, and it just didn't taste very good. I mean, it was pretty bad actually. And people that's it annoys me more when people say it's not going to change anything. That's annoying because it is going to change something. Of
Mm-hmm.
course it is. I mean, when the big brewers go in and buy these breweries, of course it's going to change. I mean, I don't blame the brewery for selling out or for selling because that each to their own, but just don't pretend that it's not going to change anything. Of course it
Yeah.
is. It's definitely going to change
I
something.
actually spoke to a buddy from mine here local in Boston, and we did a quick in-person beer swap real quick in front of my job, and we just randomly started talking. He's like, "Dude, did you see Goose Island's the Bourbon County beer bottles this year?" And I'm like, "I thought I saw them briefly." He's like, they look like Bud Light bottles. Changed bottles. He's like completely. He's like this only. He was already panicking. He's like, "Oh, they're gonna change." He's like, it's a matter of time before they mess
Yeah.
with the actual
Well,
product.
I think that one's a little different because the way they structured that sale gives the original owners of Goose Island they still they still maintain 100% control over their like barreled beers. So that part should remain the same. But when it comes to beers like Honkers and 312 and stuff of that, I mean,
Yeah, that's
I
different to me.
yeah, people already have already said that it tastes different. And Yebby, I think you bring up a good point, and that it's not like Lagunitas was one of my favorite breweries, but chances are I'm probably going to stop buying them, not because I don't like Lagunitas, but because I don't want to give Heineken my money.
Yeah,
So
that's fair enough. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I
I think
was
it's
just I was just there last week, and that the brewery is amazing. The people there is amazing. So it's hard. It's
Yep.
you get we don't do this for money. This is something we do because the passion we have for this industry, and it's always hard when a brewery that we love, and we're gonna be talking to Lagunitas in a couple weeks actually. So
yeah,
I mean, again, again, people can do whatever they want and they can sell. I mean, that's their each to their own. But it just it annoys me every time a brewery sell and they put out this press release and they come out and say nothing is gonna change and we're gonna stay the same. No, that's just cut the crap. I mean, it's things are gonna change and just be honest about it. It seems like every brewery that sells out becomes politicians all of a sudden, and they come out and say, "Oh, it's not going to change, and it's for the better," and blah blah blah. No, of course it's not for the better. It's you sold out. You wanted to cash in. You wanted to retire early. Good for you, but don't pretend that things are not going to change. That's the most
yeah,
annoying part. Just be honest about it.
right.
Yeah, that's just my opinion.
All right, so let me get into a little bit of the releases that we have coming up here out of Virginia. Star Hill, down in Crozet, West Virginia, which is near the Charlottesville area. They're releasing their Oktoberfest in the first week here in October. Epic out of Salt Lake City, they're releasing their Big Bad Baptist Imperial Stout. That's coming out on October 1st. Dewclaw, we had them on the show maybe about a month ago. They're out of Baltimore, releasing their Foundation Series 80 shilling Scottish Ale on September 27th. Revolution out of Chicago, their Unsessionable Imperial IPA, which is a 10% ABV 100 IBU IPA that was just released on yesterday. Yebby drinking Crooked Stave. They're re-releasing bottles of their Petite Sour Passion Fruit. There's going to be a 4-bottle limit. That's today. It's late here now, but you still got a little bit of
They have a
time,
release at that brewery right now, yeah.
which is good for them because Gap is going on, so people are going to be there all night. Prairie out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Their 3rd anniversary farmhouse ale brewed with raspberries was released on yesterday. Hardywood Park out of Richmond, Virginia. Their rum pumpkin ale, it's a farmhouse ale, but they're aging it in Caribbean dark rum barrels at 10.5%. That's going to be released on October 3rd. Funky Buddha out of Oakland Park, Florida. That's down in South Florida. Snowed in Bourbon Barrel Imperial Porter, October 6th, my daddy's birthday. Boulevard and Cigar City have their collaboration number 5 tropical ale. I'm guessing this is going to be an IPA with probably some New Zealand or Australian hops, keeping it nice and tropical. September 29th, Boulevard is also releasing their Imperial Stout X with tart cherries, September 29th. Ninkasi Mountain Angel Oktoberfest was released last weekend. The Shoots, who we're celebrating tomorrow on our Friday night hangout, their Brew Pub Reserve release, which is a sour quad aged in Pinot and sherry casks, that's being released tomorrow. And Dewclaw out of Baltimore, again, they're releasing their Devil's Milk American Barley Wine, 11.5% ABV, hitting shelves on October 12th. Jeppe, you got anything coming out soon here on the horizon?
That's a good question. We make so many different beers. I have a couple of new collaborations with different restaurants coming out. A restaurant in New York called Blanca, a Michelin-star restaurant in Brooklyn. We made a new beer together. It's kind of a table beer, 4.5% bread fermented. And I have another beer coming out with Nomad and 11 Madison, 2 other restaurants in New York. I like to work with restaurants, which is actually a fun beer. It's based on one of my favorite cocktails called Start Me Up. So it's a ginger, saffron, honey ale. So it's kind of a weird thing, but it should be fun.
Another challenge. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
My favorite cocktail is a Manhattan.
Oh yeah, I love it.
You think you can make a Manhattan beer? Is that possible?
I think some people have tried before. You can. I mean, when I've made a couple of beers inspired by cocktails, and I'm not. You can never make the beer taste like the cocktail. It's just not possible because you different things. But if you can do something that for people here it's inspired by Manhattan and get kind of the same flavor profile. I think that would be a good start.
After a few of those big stouts, you don't know what you drink. You might think you drank Manhattan.
Exactly.
All right, for festivals coming up, we've spoken about this one for a little bit now, but this one's actually going to be taken off on Saturday. In Valley Center, California, their Hop Heads and Dreads Festival. Expect a lot of reggae music and hoppy beer. GABFA is going on right now, starting today, and that'll be going through Saturday. Make It Funky. I'm actually going to this one. This one's up in Silver Spring, Maryland at Denizens Brewing on October 3rd. It's a sour beer fest, first annual, so they're going to have a lot of good stuff up there. Yards Brewery out of Philly, we had them on last week, and they're having their Pink Affair on October 4th. That'll be a good one to go to because some of the proceeds from the sales of that beer go toward breast cancer research. So if you're looking to buy beer and have an effect on a cause, that's definitely a good one to attend. The Denver Rare Beer Tasting 7, Denver, Colorado, fittingly so, this week. On the 25th, it'll be tomorrow. Louisville Brew Fest, that's in Louisville, Kentucky, on tomorrow as well. South Sound Craft Beer Festival, Spokane, Washington, that's going to be on the 29th. Village Voice Brooklyn Pour Craft Beer Festival, say that 5 times fast. That's going to be on the 26th. Helen Oktoberfest in Helen, Georgia. That's going to be the 10th and the 11th of I think that's the 10th and 11th of September. Wait, I don't know what. Yeah, that's coming up. And
it started already. Gonna go all the way to.
Oh, it goes from September 10th all the way to November 2nd. Jeez,
Ooh,
they're putting in work.
Some drunk people.
Oh, that's a good time.
And the last one is Big Bear Lake Oktoberfest. That's coming up. That's going from the September 12th to October 31st. So, but it's weekends only. So they're getting it in as well. So yeah, but you have any festivals coming up that you're gonna be attending, or are you kind of on?
Yeah, I'm going to Norway in about a month for
Okay.
a festival called What's Brewing in Stavanger. I went last year. I don't go to a lot of festivals. I'm too busy and I don't like festivals too much actually. So, but Norway is kind of close to home, so I like to go to that one.
Okay. Well, you should check out. I'm sure you know about Brewvival down in
I do
Charleston.
know Brewery. Brewery is run by two of my best friends, so I definitely go to that as much as I can. That's one of my favorite festivals.
Well, I'll be looking for you there this February coming
Good.
up. So.
Good.
All right, everybody. So that's our show tonight. Thank you for joining us. Jeppe, we'd like to give a special thank you to you. You've been a fantastic guest. We all love your beer, and we hope that you continue to make it and let us be a little bit selfish in saying we do think that this is what you're supposed to be doing with your life because,
I'll take it.
because we're selfish like that. So tons of thanks to you, Gil.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you. I mean, all the breweries that I visited this past weekend, 2 weeks, amazing, and that's why I love craft brewery. I had an awesome time in every single brewery, and I'll be on Hopping Frog on Tuesday night. You can come buy me a pint.
This
Right.
guy.
Plug.
All right, so guys, until next time, I think next week we have is it Lagunitas next week, Gil?
Lagunitas next week.
So we're gonna be able to ask him a little bit of questions about the Heineken deal and stuff like that. So be sure to join us next week when we have Lagunitas. But until then, find some good friends, get some great beer, and mind those P's and Q's.